truths of the night. Once again, we gather in search of the truth, dark, and mystery. It's the Drunk Turkey Show.
Big development today in the investigation into the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. According to state and local officials and court documents, 28-year-old Brian Christopher Kohberger has been arrested. He was arrested and arraigned this morning in Pennsylvania.
We have new details on what Brian Kohberger was doing right before his arrest. Police says a tactical team burst in to arrest the Idaho murder suspect. He was in pajamas and latest gloves, stuffing trash into Ziploc bags.
Hey, greetings from the year 3000. It still sucks. This is Phil J. Fry, and you're listening to the Drunken Turkey Show. Your one stop for this sort of thing. Hit that button, like and subscribe. You know what to do, just like every other podcast.
Just like every other podcast. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the DT Show. On the second show tonight, we've talked a little bit about the WSU lawsuit with a civil lawyer, Matt Rowland. He was on the show just a few minutes ago. Talked the ins and outs of that lawsuit. If you haven't caught it, go make sure you catch it after you're done listening to this crazy story. But we have a breaking story that's been going on for the last day or so. Today, co-anchor Savannah Guthrie, her mother appears to have been abducted. There's a ransom note that has been left behind to TMZ and to a local news affiliation or channel, referencing some possible information that only the persons that were responsible for the abduction to have known. We're going to get into that and how accurate some of that information is. There was some blood spatter that we looked at. I've actually contacted one of my friends, Steve from True Crime Web, who is former CSI crime scene investigator. He retired from CSI and he works with a cold case foundation now. And I sent him over images. We analyzed the blood splatter, and we're going to give you our opinion of what we see and in the blood splatter and what may have occurred outside of that door. You don't want to miss it. Hit the like button, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, ring that notification bell. This is going to be a case that we're going to be talking about tomorrow night. I'm going to be talking about Spencer and Monique Tepe. The autopsies are in, and I've called a lot of things in that case, and I think there's going to be some more information that I was right about that the autopsy is going to bring to light. And so we're going to talk about that tomorrow night. So make sure you're subscribed up and everything else in between. So without further ado, let's break it down. Let's get into today's case and the information. So I'm fairly new at this case. I heard about it and started getting information and articles together. You guys know if it's highlighted, I've read it. If it's not, I've never seen it before. And so I pulled these out based on what the title says, but I've not read these, so I'm going to be responding to this as we go along. I know very little about this case, so we're going to learn this together, guys. So this goes on to say, today, co-anchor Savannah Guthrie is asking for prayers for her mother's safe return as Arizona authorities continue to investigate her possible abduction. Nancy Guthrie, 84, was reported missing around noon Sunday from her home outside of Tucson after she failed to show up to church, and her family searched her home and property for nearly an hour. Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos told NBC News she was last seen the night before around 9:45 p.m. So the last sign of life was the night before at 9:45 p.m. on a Saturday night. That's good information to have. When the family members dropped her off at her home. Now, I wonder if she has, I know there was an Apple Watch and maybe perhaps, I wonder if there's any text messages, anything that would indicate a sign of life after the fact. And why that is important is, was somebody in the home already when she was dropped off and they caught her by surprise shortly after? Or do they have movements and things of that nature which would indicate that somebody made entry into that home throughout the middle of the night? And that could, give us an idea of some things, right? So if they came in the dead of the night, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, would that indicate that the intention was always the abduction? Maybe, I think it's possible. I think that if they were already in the house before 9:45 and they had that intention, if the abduction is accurate. Now, I'm a little bit not necessarily skeptical. I want to see. I don't know anything about it. I'm a little skeptical because of the timing in which the ransom note got released. Had the ransom note gotten released, or there was something sent out to the media or to law enforcement, and then the crime scene was discovered, I would be more on like, hey, there's that's definitely connected. But the fact that that gets taken care of so much later says one or two things. One, that the initial plan was not an abduction. Maybe this was something that went wrong, and they're trying to make people, misdirection. Look at this. We're going to, issue out all this information to make people think this is some sort of big old thing. Or two, somebody's trying to capitalize on the situation by saying that they have her and want to get a warrant, some sort of ransom money, and they have no involvement in the case. Or three, they are actually involved and this was the plan. But let's break it down. We've only written one paragraph, so let's go to the next. Nanos said Monday that after what was initially a search and rescue operations, officials are treating her disappearance as a crime. He said that the sheriff department believed she was taken possibly in the middle of the night, and that includes a possible kidnapping or abduction. So in the middle of the night, it's interesting. The timing and with that. Now, I'm ex-law enforcement, but I've never worked a kidnapping case like that. Majority of the abduction cases that we worked where it was more like a family member, took a child when they weren't supposed to, type of situation. But let's continue this. The case remains under an active investigation. Officials said around 100 sheriff office detectives are on the case, the office said, and the FBI is assisting. At this point, there is no credible information indicating this was a targeted incident, the sheriff official said on Tuesday. Interesting. I would assume the ransom note, if real, would be credible information that would indicate that this was a targeted event. By them putting it out this way, makes me wonder about that information. All right, no suspects have been identified. It said all tips are being taken very seriously. There are reports that ransom notes have been sent to 2 news outlets referencing Guthrie, copies of which NBC News has not seen. No law enforcement agencies have substantiated the reports, but law enforcement officials have said they are investigating them. The Pima County Sheriff's Office in a statement said that it was aware of reports circulating of the possible random notes regarding the investigation into Nancy Guthrie, and added that it is taking all tips and leads very seriously. The office said nothing that it receives is shared with their detectives along with the FBI. Nanos said on Tuesday, repeated pleas for help for the public. Savannah Guthrie, who was absent from today's show on Monday and Tuesday, expressed her gratitude for the support Monday night on Instagram, asking for prayers for her mother's safe return. We believe in prayer. We believe in the voice raised in unison, in love and hope. We believe in goodness. We believe in humanity. All above, we believe in him. She wrote in a caption to an image that reads, please pray. Thank you for lifting our prayers with ours and our beloved mom, our dearest Nancy, a woman of deep conviction, a good and faithful servant. Raise your prayers with us and believe with us that she will be lifted by them in this very moment. Guthrie added, we need you. In a post on Tuesday, X, the White House urged anyone with information about Guthrie's disappearance to contact authorities. Our prayers are with Guthrie's family as we hope for Nancy's safe return home. Nanos declined to answer questions about the specifics of the investigation at the news conference Tuesday afternoon, including which evidence was found at the scene. He said authorities did not know whether Guthrie's possible abduction was random or targeted. We're following all leads, and we got hundreds of leads. The sheriff's office said in a statement that the DNA samples confirmed to be those of Guthrie were collected from the home, but it said it was not confirmed that they were blood. Interesting. And so we have pictures of the blood samples. We're going to look at that and the blood splatter. And I got some information from, again, for those that didn't catch the early part of the show, I sent out that information to Steve from True Crime Web. He's a retired CSI, crime scene investigator, is an expert in blood splatter, and he's gotten some information and I think we've kind of got an idea of what may have occurred right there. The DNA samples, some of which will still be tested on Tuesday, have not pointed to any person of interest. Detectives are also working through any pacemaker information that may be available. John Edwards, the FBI assistant special agent in charge, told reporters that federal law enforcement officers were providing an analytical and a technical support and conducting interviews. Guthrie has limited mobility and is without her necessary daily medication. She has no cognitive issues, and her disappearance is not linked to dementia, describing her as sharp as a tack. We know she was harmed at the home, but we do not know to what extent. In an interview later with Arizona Daily Star newspaper, Tucson, Nanos refused to confirm or deny she was harmed, saying he misspoke or something. There's some blood there at the front of the house. I'm not sure. And if the DNA comes back to her, it definitely does sound like that may be the case. Nanos has not provided additional details about the investigation. He previously said authorities are not aware of any threats against Savannah Guthrie, who is now in Arizona. And I think that's probably one of the first things that you're going to look at is, was somebody aware of who she was? There's a ransom note possibly circulating around. Were they aware of the, that would be an indication of a targeted event. Them saying that they don't have anything indicating it was targeted earlier on kind of leads to believe that maybe this was some sort of like robbery turned bad, and now they're trying to deceive with this ransom if they're putting out information like that. Apparently, they used information that only the persons that were involved in this crime would have known, according to TMZ. Law enforcement hasn't confirmed that to be true or not. And so we'll see. Let's see. Nanos said Tuesday that the sheriff's office is waiting on analysis of evidence to come back from labs and confirmed that investigators have completed their scene work, saying they were done with the residence and declined to confirm whether there was blood inside or outside of the house. There was definitely blood outside, and we have, like I said, images of that. Nonprofit group that closely works with the sheriff's department and other law enforcement agencies offered a reward up to $2,500 on Monday night for information leading up to the person or persons involved, or the arrest of the person involved in Guthrie's disappearance. Savannah Guthrie added on her Instagram post, "We'll keep in perfect peace with those hearts are steadfast, trusting the Lord." Savannah Guthrie will no longer be in Italy as planned for coverage of the Olympics. Okay, so let's see if there was something different here in this document. I'm just going to scan through it real quick because that one was pretty extensive. All right, so here goes. FBI reviewed a note and made the decision to share it with Savannah Guthrie. Okay, so that's pretty huge. So let's go back here. So sheriff says ransom note being investigated in disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. A ransom note was sent to a local Arizona news station following the disappearance of the Today Show co-host Savannah Guthrie's mother, Nancy Guthrie. The note, which the station received Monday and agreed to not report on it, contains specific details about the home and what Nancy Guthrie was wearing that night. Pima County Sheriff's Office, Chris Nanos said, although we would not confirm the accuracy of the information or the legitimacy of the note, it's like any other piece of evidence. You give it to us, we give it. You give us a lead. We're going to look at every aspect of that lead. Nanos did not specify which station the note was sent to, but CBS affiliate KOLD TV reported Tuesday had received an email that appears to be one of the alleged ransom notes, which it was forwarded before. And so let me see. And Mac Colson states here, our sister station in Tucson received one of the alleged ransom notes and an email. It includes a deadline, a dollar amount, and a specific details perhaps only the abductors would know. Law enforcement has this email and is working to verify in its authority. So this is a Arizona news station, a local news station that received this information. Okay. Kind of screams to some people that may be kind of local to this. Meaning, I don't think somebody orchestrated something from outside of Arizona to go in there, specifically target them and pull her out. I'm leaning more and more towards, if the information is accurate on this alleged ransom note, given the fact that this doesn't go out until Monday, This doesn't sound like it was planned. Not like this. This sounds like somebody's coming up with a plan as they're going along, try to misdirect or take advantage of a situation. Let's see. We got a couple of things that I want to bring up real quick. I want to say welcome to Sue being the newest member. Also, Mark the Shark being the newest member. What's going on, Mark? I know you've been a member for a while. And he's gifted a Drunk Turkey Show membership. Casey Marie being a member for 14 months. And then Maga Mama coming in with the newest membership as well. And a $2 super sticker from Mark the Shark. Thank you guys for coming in. I appreciate you guys. We got quite a few folks in here. Let's hit the like button and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Let's see. Investigators have analyzed the note and are taking it seriously, Nanos said. He said the FBI reviewed the note and made the decision to share it with Savannah Guthrie. So they're sharing it. So that means that, in my opinion, you do not share it with a victim unless the information that's on there about the scene is accurate. All right. If what they're saying about the scene is inaccurate, I don't think you bother to share it with the victim. Now, maybe perhaps you do. I mean, no, I don't think you do. I think you would ask, hey, what kind of clothing did Nancy wear at night? Did she have what they were describing in this note? Because it sounded like they described what she was wearing. Did she own these type of pajamas? Are those pajamas missing, etc.? But I think that's probably the length of what you're going to probably get out of it. Maybe perhaps if there's, if it's, it was an email, I believe, right? It's not like it's a handwritten note. Maybe certain terms or words or phrases, you know what I'm saying, could be in there. Maybe they're trying to see if it sounds like anybody that she may know. But for the FBI to review the note and make the decision to share it leads me to believe that there's more than likely that there's some accuracy inside of that note. Authorities had hoped to keep the information from being public, but the note was obtained by TMZ, which reported on it before contacting the sheriff's office. Obviously they did that. They were going to report on it before contacting the sheriff's office. Yeah, I'm not surprised. The Pima County Sheriff's Department had earlier said on social media it was aware of reports circulating of possible ransom notes, adding anything that comes in goes directly to our detectives who are coordinating with the FBI. Now, it's interesting that they send it to news media. So they want this to be a spectacle. They want this to be something big. It'd be different if they somehow emailed it to, Savannah Guthrie or to law enforcement. But they mailed it off to the media. They sent it out to the media. So they want this to be a spectacle. They want the coverage. That's interesting. That is interesting. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section. What does that tell you? Does that say anything to you that if they are involved in this, it's one thing to contact law enforcement who wanted to keep that part quiet. Why add that to this? My opinion, if they're trying to deceive and if they're trying to manipulate everybody into thinking it's one thing, getting everybody involved in things has worked in the favor of to a certain extent of some criminals that we've covered before. Could they be trying to create some sort of mass confusion and in conversation and leads and things of that nature that could create a misdirection? That's a lot of that's a lot of thought. It's a lot of thought to go into this, but they've had some time to think about it. But they didn't send this out to the FBI. They didn't send that out to anybody else. They sent this to the media. They wanted this to get out. They want people to know. They want people to know that this wasn't somebody that wandered off. This wasn't somebody that got hurt and wandered off. They wanted to know that this was a ransom thing. And they don't just want the folks that can hand over the money. They want this to be a spectacle. Interesting. It's weird. It's weird. Surveillance video from the home security system has yielded nothing so far, Nanos told CBS News. Huh. Okay, I wonder what kind of security system that she had. I'm not familiar. I'm going to see if we can find some videos and images and things of that nature that can show us the cameras around the place. He said investigators believe the system may have been set to automatically delete. Oh, there we go. I should just keep reading. He said investigators believe the system may have been set automatically to delete footage after a short period of time. They are now attempting to recover it through forensic means. So this wasn't somebody that wiped something or anything like that, to their knowledge at this point. If it was, that would say some stuff. But since it's possibly not that, and it's just that it deleted it after a short period of time, I hope they can pull it through forensics. Nanos previously told CBS News that investigators believe the 84-year-old was abducted from her home in the middle of the night, over the weekend, and he described it as a crime scene. Authorities have been searching for her since Sunday. Nancy Guthrie was last seen in her home Saturday night, but no one knew she was missing until she didn't show up for church the next morning. And so he's saying it's overnight. And I think there was like a pacemaker that was attached to her, like her Apple Watch. Right now, if she was charging it, I'm not familiar with pacemakers and stuff, so I'm assuming that that must mean that she got far away from the watch. Right. I wonder if they found the watch still plugged in or something at home. And at that point, is she got far enough that it lost signal to keep track of that. I'm not 100% certain on that. The sheriff repeatedly said that Guthrie, who lives alone, could not have wandered away from her home because she has no cognitive issues and very limited mobility. He also expressed concerns that she needs access to medication that must be taken daily. The clock is literally ticking. You've placed her in a great jeopardy without giving her meds that are critical to her. Again, like I've said, could be fatal if she doesn't get her meds. Let's see. The sheriff said that it could be unclear how many people may have been involved in the apparent abduction. It could be one. It could have been more. I don't know. He said a little bit of blood was found inside of Nancy's home, and law enforcement source familiar with the case told CBS and what appeared to be a small amount of dry blood seen next to the doormat outside of the front door of the home on Tuesday. So let's look at that real quick. So this is Brian Enton, and this is the blood that's visible out of the house. Okay, so this right here, and I've talked with, and I'm going to bring up some photos that are a little bit clear. But that looks like somebody coughing. That looks like these bigger forces here of droplets. That's a heavy amount of blood, but the smaller amount here, that's somebody coughing up blood or aspirating blood. Let me, not like a knife wound. I don't think so. This is, this is more consistent with coughing up blood. Let me pull up the photos that we have. Okay, so that's more consistent with like coughing up blood, facing downward, probably on your hands and knees. This looks like a partial possible print. Maybe. But if it is, it's a very small shoe, because these squares aren't very big. And this is like probably like one tread of a shoe. And I would assume would be, it looks smaller. It could be hers. But if she left in the middle of the night, I think they said the pacemaker stopped connecting to the Apple Watch around 2 a.m. If that's the time frame and they broke into the house in the middle of the night and took her by surprise from her bed, allowing her to get her shoes on is unlikely. Maybe a slipper. It could be a slipper. Definitely could be. And then you have these pieces that are dried. And then you have, like, in the direction, in my opinion, drops of blood coming out. You know, I think that this person, that she was on the ground, hands and knees, coughed up blood, and was taken this direction. Okay, so you got peaks and valleys similar to the above heel image from transfer due to stepping in a pool of blood. If this is transfer, LA may not wish for the offender to know of shoe transfer. And so you have ridges and stuff like that. And so what Steve told me was images outside of the door doesn't have scale to it, so it's very unclear. But first thought is coughed up blood from someone possibly facing down on their hands and knees. The larger drops can be associated with additional injuries supplying blood to create the droplets. Skeletonized blood rings are interesting. The blood pool furthest from the door is interesting. Defined edges, possibly a transfer. No satellite indication formation of blood drops. And then he asked me for a better image of the drops itself, and I sent him the video that we just watched. And then that's when he said, "Hey, this could be like somebody stepping in something that, like, some blood there and leaving a print, like a small amount of a print." Let me know in the comment section of what you guys think there. We have a random shoe scene. This is just from a random scene. This isn't from her scene. This is just to show in comparison, but this definitely looks like coughed up and then other injuries. And so, you know, what kind of injury can cause that? I mean, quite a bit of different types, you know, and very scary, very scary. And so this is the entrance of the door. Apparently there was some sort of sign of forced entry on the door. There's a deadbolt. There isn't a camera here. It's not a Ring camera. So if definitely walked out this direction. There appears to be some sort of like dead flowers on the ground. I definitely think somebody walked her out of there. And given the mobility stuff and everything, but I think she fell down, coughed up, was lifted up, and I think she may have been the one who left. This seems pretty small. And so if she was wearing slippers or a shoe, if it's a shoe tread, then I would believe this is possibly more so a younger person, female. Bitcoin, you know, asking for Bitcoin. Yeah, that sounds like a younger person too. You know, I want Bitcoin. I mean, you know, then again, that's more prevalent nowadays. I don't know. Like this kind of screams to me that they broke in. This may have been like a robbery gone wrong, and they panicked, took her out of the house, and waited and tried to figure out something. And then it's on the news. They come up with some sort of distraction plan saying, hey, we have this ransom. I think there's a good possibility that could be it. If it's not, if they abducted her with the intention of getting a ransom, what are some of the things that kind of come out that make me not believe that? One, they weren't the ones to notify the disappearance, right? It wasn't them calling up law enforcement and saying, hey, or calling up or emailing Savannah Guthrie, hey, we got your mom, we want X amount of money or whatever. This was after the fact, well after the fact, after she was reported missing. Maybe maybe they didn't know who they took, and then it comes out in the news and then they try to figure out something. That's also possible, that they took somebody and didn't know, and then they found out, and then they're trying to capitalize even more by saying, hey, well, we have her, and if you want her, this is what it's going to cost you. So there's a few things that definitely could be here. Bitcoin has it's very difficult to trace. I agree 100%. It is very difficult to trace. Could be a scammer trying to get Bitcoin. I think so too, Janet Smith. I think so. I think there's a possibility that's a case here. But I mean, there's right now the possibilities are quite a bit, but it definitely does seem like she went to the ground. Given like how close it is, I would assume that she was fairly close to the ground when she coughed. If she was further away from the ground when she was coughing, I think that spatter would be spread out a little bit further. But how close it is like that, I would say that she was fairly close to the ground. But that's kind of what we were looking at again with the blood spatter. And I know that I got this here from Steve, and this was for bloodstain patterns resulting from large volumes, splash or projected blood. And as you can see, it has that ring, like some of the blood there, and this, projectile to the sides there. Let's see, arterial. That's not what we're looking at, nor that. Yeah, there's a lot of different blood spatter on this. So here's a skeletonized blood stain created by flaking away at the central area of the stain, indicating actively shortly after blood was deposited. Okay, so skeletalized blood stain produced by a wiping alteration of partially dried blood stain, indicating actively shortly after the blood was disposed. Note the remaining spherical ring of the original blood stain caused by the drying around the edges. Interesting. I wonder what I'm not a CSI guy, so I'm assuming this means that something wiped away some of that. Let's look at where it was at. It does look like it's wiped out that way. Huh. Interesting. But this is a whole thing, guys. I'm not going to learn blood splatter in a few weeks or in a few minutes here. I'm going to have to get Steve from True Crime Web to get back on and talk to us about this. But we got a ransom note. We got a few things that are going on. this is insane. This is an insane case. I'm going to see if there's anything else that has populated real quick. In the meantime, put your questions in the comment section. I think we got over 1,000 folks in here, so please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I appreciate that, guys. Let's see what TMZ has to say. TMZ says, Sheriff's latest update on the search. The Pima County Sheriff's Department says Nancy's Tucson home has been processed for evidence inside and out. And now that the home has now been turned over to the Guthrie family. Savannah has been away from today as the investigation moves forward. So far, no credible information indicating Nancy was targeted. And this was just dropped a couple of, this was updated at 6:13 Pacific Standard Time, so about 2 hours ago. A little bit less than 2 hours ago is when this was updated. I wonder if that means that the information about the ransom note was maybe not the greatest. Let's see. Still, TMZ received an alleged ransom note demanding millions of dollars in Bitcoin in exchange for Nancy's release. So you see right here, it says, so far, no credible information. Nancy was targeted. Still, TMZ received an alleged ransom note. So is it possible that this is, somebody trying to capitalize on an unfortunate incident and indicating random stuff just so they can get some sort of Bitcoin payday? I think it's possible, and what is the evidence that would prove, make me think that? One, it wasn't them that contacted law enforcement, right? Of the disappearance. It wasn't, they didn't contact law enforcement until it already made news and hit the media and was, even at that, it was still the next day. Two, they contacted the media to create this huge spectacle instead of contacting the family or law enforcement to say, here, these are our demands. This is what we want. If you want her back, this is what's going to happen. No, they sent this out to the media. And so this screams like they don't know what they're doing, in my opinion. Let's see. This goes on to say DNA evidence from Nancy's home has been collected for testing, but nothing has been found out what could point to a person of interest. Nancy has a pacemaker, reportedly stopped syncing with her Apple device early Sunday morning before she was reported missing. But PCSD says that they haven't released any specific timeframes related to the pacemaker, and we're working to review the available data that may be assisting in this investigation. So where the Apple Watch is going to be important, right? Because, again, this doesn't sound like somebody was lying in wait at 9:45 and then just waited for her to walk in and then take her by surprise. I'm assuming they have the Apple Watch, and if they have it, she must have taken it off. Obviously, if it's on the charger and things like that, then this incident didn't occur right when she walked into the house. This incident occurred some other time, and if the Apple Watch, not reporting and stuff is because it is away, like the distance is too far for it to report. And this is going to give us an accurate time frame as far as when she left the home, per se. Now, I don't know if this means that the pacemaker stopped, and I think that's a possibility, but I don't know. But I think this is going to give us an idea of when this more. Oh, Guthrie. Am I saying that wrong? I apologize, everybody. Everybody's probably been laughing at me this whole time. I've been saying Guthrie. It's Guthrie. I apologize. I don't watch much TV, as you guys probably can tell. Let's see. Nancy's home had surveillance cameras, some of which appear to have been removed, and detectives are working with the family and the home security companies to determine the number of cameras and whether any footage was available. Okay. PCSD says around 100 detectives are helping with the case, including a search and rescue unit. and are working with the FBI along with other law enforcement agencies offering assistance. President Trump says he is willing to put even more federal resources on the case. No suspects have been identified, but PCSD says they're waiting on additional forensic results. The next media briefing is scheduled for Thursday, but stay tuned for any updates on that. So we're going to continue to monitor this case. And on Thursday, when they have that briefing, I will go live and we'll cover the briefing. So make sure you subscribe and ring the notification bell, because I will be covering that media briefing Thursday. If anything breaks tomorrow, obviously I'm going to be covering that as well. Let's see. And if you guys have any questions for me, let's put a couple of stars. I'm going to start doing the questions now for the next 5 to 10 minutes before we call it a show. I think the perpetrator knew who she was, or he would have left her in the home. Kidnapping for ransom is pretty rare because technology doesn't bode well for the perpetrator of that type of crime. I think it's possible. I do think it's possible that he knew who she was and that the motive was financial, and that they wanted to go in there and take her and get a ransom. You know, there's just a few things that kind of bother me that, and that's just the fact that they reached out to the media. They didn't reach out before they didn't come out with the demands until after the disappearance became well public. But I think it is very much possible. Also the timing, you know, I would assume that if it was a situation where it was shortly after she got home that her pacemaker doesn't connect to her Apple Watch, I'd say you got a point. I think there's something there. If it's much later, then I want to lean more towards like a robbery gone wrong, because there was a sign of break-in in this scenario. Let's see. I've wondered why the whole ransom thing doesn't have anything to do with it, but I don't understand why they would take an 84-year-old woman. It's a good question. I mean, maybe perhaps they figured out who she was when they broke into the house and they came up with a plan in the moment. Maybe perhaps you know, something happened and they panicked and they felt that they needed to remove her from the room or from the scene because they felt that there would be DNA evidence of theirs on her person, that they, you know, maybe she fought back. And, you know, I know she had some mobility stuff, but if, you know, she scratched or she put her arm up or something like that and caught them or whatever the case may be, maybe they felt the need to remove her from the house because of forensic purposes. I don't know. But it is it's a very mysterious case. And it does seem like somebody did forcibly take her from the house. And not on her own will. They said there was a doorbell camera and they removed it. I didn't see a doorbell camera on the photos. Let me pull it back up. Oh, I already had it up. Let's see. I mean, there's the doorbell there. I know they said they had surveillance cameras and that the cameras were taken down, but I don't know if it was a doorbell camera. Okay, let's see. Guthrie, yeah. I apologize for that all night. I've been saying the wrong name. This was committed by someone who knew her or at the very least was familiar with the property. Most of the time that's accurate. Most of the time that is accurate, that the person that commits a crime against you is somebody that you know, or are familiar with. That's quite possible. You know, if you're looking at statistics, it's more than likely somebody that she knew. But if it was, then this whole ransom thing is just a ruse. It's just a distraction. All right. Oh, did I see the autopsy? Yeah, tomorrow night, guys, we're going to be talking about the autopsy results of the Tepsies. Thank you, Gene. So yeah, we're going to be talking about that tomorrow night. Wouldn't they lose cover and risk being seen leaving with an elderly woman who moves slowly? They found the benefit of having her with them. That's a good point, Bondage. That's a good point. It's either that or they did it by necessity, meaning they felt that they needed to remove her because there was DNA of theirs or something forensically that could um, trace back to them, right? And so, a couple of different things, but yeah, very much like you bring an excellent point there, Bondage. Good point. If the ransom note is legit, even though I don't think it is, there needs to be proof of life. I would think you would demand that, you know. Um, could this be why they reached out to the media? But there was a deadline. There was a deadline. I was going to say, this be why they reached out to the media so that they can have dialogue that couldn't be traced to them? Meaning that, if the law enforcement wants to have some sort of dialogue back and forth, it's going to be through the media. They're going to have to go through, instead of sending an email back that could somehow be traced to them. If they move around and use different places and IPs and they use different was like VPNs and stuff like that. Can they make it so that it's harder to trace them versus if and they're going through the media? I mean, in the end, it's still a traceable communication, but this could be just their thought process, right? Like, hey, we're gonna go through the media, so we're not gonna directly contact law enforcement, so they can't find us. Maybe that's their thought process, but I'm not sure. Do you believe it's more than one person involved in this crime? Ooh, that's a good question. I don't think it has to be, but I think it's possible. I think one person could have committed this crime, but I think there could have been more. At this point, with the information and the evidence that we have, I don't know. There's not much that's out there to speculate one way or another, but I think it's possible one way or the other. I don't think there's anything here that can rule it out at this point. Get White's in the ransom notes, 2 different media, but not just take her phone and call the family. Isn't taking much more risk to sending them to the media if they're legit. Let me see. I mean, if they took her phone, that's going to be traceable, right? And so, they're definitely not going to want to have that phone on them, on or off, because I don't know if you can trace something off. I don't know if there's certain things you have to do. Brian Koberger knew, but I don't know if there's certain things you need to know so that way it's not traced while it's off, or if it can be. But yeah, that's an excellent point there. They have her Apple Watch and her cell phone. So if they have her Apple Watch and her phone, okay, that's good. That's good to know. Cartel recently kidnapped miners, and the Guthries have had a mining company called Guthrie Mining. Interesting. I didn't know that, Gene. I'm going to have to look into that. I did not look into that. The camera was torn off the house. So it wasn't law enforcement that brought it up. That's interesting. That screams, if somebody committed this crime and they went and they snuck around the house and ripped off the cameras, that says that they were aware of the cameras. There was casing of some sort, whether it's like a long-term casing where they've been looking at it for a while, or they took a moment to look at the house and the property a couple of times before actually hitting it, so they can get to the cameras. But that's interesting. If the cameras were torn off the house, that is. But the article did indicate that law enforcement had the cameras, so I would assume that law enforcement has them. Let's see. Do we know where the perp parked the car? Her car. Or his or her car. I don't know. That's a good question. I would assume not very far. Well, here's the thing. If it was up close, then all right. No, if it was far away, Do you think they were aware of her mobility issues? Would they have had to move the vehicle closer to put her in? I would assume that at some point the car was fairly close to the house to get her into the car because of the mobility issues. Now, if this was multiple people and they carried her into a car, that's possible also. Please hit the like button, guys, and share the content. And I'm going to continue to cover this case. So, do the do Guthries actually have to do with the mountain name, street, and neighborhood name? I don't know. I'm not sure. It was sent to TMZ. That's a scam. I mean, that was a big red flag for me too. This sounds awful, but I think this was sexually motivated by someone's son, either at church or a neighborhood. Oh wow. I mean, it's possible. I don't know one way or the other, but the first part of that was it being sent to TMZ, and we'll end the show on this. I want to thank everybody for being here. It being sent to TMZ is a big red flag for me, you know, of somebody trying to create a distraction, a spectacle. If this is legit, that's interesting. Now, law enforcement coming out and saying that they have no credible information to believe that this was a targeted event leads me to believe that they're finding holes in the ransom at this point and very early on, which means it's probably somebody trying to capitalize. If it is not legit, if the ransom has nothing to do with it, then my thought process is this is probably some sort of robbery gone wrong, and they took Miss Guthrie out with them because they were afraid of something forensically. That's kind of where I'm sitting at right now. But as more information comes, I'm definitely gonna mold my opinion on that based off of that information and that evidence that comes out. Let me know what you guys think so far. Put it in the comment section. I want to thank everybody for being here. We had over 1,000 people in the live stream, so thank you guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'm going to be back tomorrow night talking about the Tepe case. Also, if anything else develops, I just did a live right now on the Brian Koberger case, so if you haven't caught that, please go back and watch. But I'll be back tomorrow night, guys. I'll see you guys then. See y'all next time. Peace out, y'all.